We are just south of the Twin Cities, riding the high bluffs where the Minnesota River swings north to join the Mississippi. Mendota Heights and Old Mendota sit on the Dakota County side of that meeting, with St. Paul across the water to the north and Egan spreading south. Everything on this ride flows from the two great rivers below us. Down through the trees, two rivers become one. The Minnesota River, draining half the farmland of the state, slides in from the west and merges with the Mississippi rolling down from the north. Where they join, the water spreads wide and slow around wooded islands, a broad green corridor of cottonwood and silver maple that has drawn people to its banks for thousands of years. This is the homeland of the Dakota people, who call this country Mni Sota Makoce, the land where the waters reflect the skies. The rivers were their highways and their larder, the bottoms rich with fish, game, and wild rice, the terraces good for gardens of corn and squash. Long before any fort or city, this valley was home. The Dakota name for this exact meeting of the rivers is Bdote, the place where two waters come together. For many Dakota, this confluence is far more than a landmark. It is a place of Genesis, a sacred center of the world where their story begins. To ride the bluff above Bdote is to move along the edge of a place held holy for countless generations. The whole region around us is shaped by great rivers. The Mississippi gathers the Minnesota here at Bdote, and a short way downstream it takes in the St. Croix as well. These three rivers carved the valleys, set the routes of travel and trade, and decided where towns and a state capital would rise. This ride simply follows the oldest roads there are, the rivers themselves. The little village of Mendota, just below these heights, wears the river in its name. Mendota is an anglicized spelling of the Dakota word Mdote, meaning the mouth or junction of one river with another. It is one of the oldest continuous European-American settlements in Minnesota, a river town whose very name still says where two waters meet. In the early 1800s, this junction became a hub of the fur trade. Voyageurs and traders working for the American Fur Company gathered here at Mdote, exchanging kettles, cloth, and tools for the beaver and muskrat pelts carried down the rivers. For a generation, this bank was a frontier crossroads of canoes, keelboats, and the mingling of Dakota and European lives. On the flats at Mendota still stands a low house of pale limestone, built in 1836 for the fur trader Henry Hastings Sibley, who ran the company's regional trade and later became the first governor of the state. It is among the oldest surviving buildings in Minnesota. Nearby sits the stone house of the trader Jean Baptiste Faribault, two quiet relics of the river frontier. Across the confluence, on the high point of land between the rivers, rise the stone walls of historic Fort Snelling. The United States Army raised this frontier post through the 1820s to command the meeting of the waters and the fur trade that flowed through it. Its round tower and diamond battery have watched over Bdote for 2 centuries, a fort built on ground the Dakota already held sacred. This beautiful place also holds deep grief. After the United States Dakota War of 1862, roughly 1,600 Dakota people, mostly women, children, and elders, were marched here and confined in a stockade on the river flats below the fort. Through the bitter winter that followed, cold and disease took many lives. We ride past this ground with respect, remembering that Bdote is a place of both origin and mourning for the Dakota nation. Back in the saddle, the paved path traces the top of the bluff along an old railroad grade, the Big Rivers Regional Trail. Through gaps in the oaks the valley opens far below, the rivers glinting between green islands. This gentle, steady grade was laid for trains a century ago and now carries riders quietly above one of the great river junctions of the continent. Ahead, the trail climbs onto a long, graceful span of concrete arches. This is the Mendota Bridge, opened in 1926 to carry the highway across the Minnesota River between the fort and the Heights. When it was finished, it was said to be the longest concrete arch bridge in the world. Rolling across it, the whole confluence spreads out beneath the wheels, river, island, and bluff in a single sweeping view. On the far side, the ride slips towards St. Paul, the capital city built on the limestone bluffs of the Mississippi. A steamboat landing that grew into a river metropolis, St. Paul still turns its face to the water that made it. From the trail, the downtown towers stand distant and pale above the same current that once carried furs, brick, and grain down toward the sea. Down off the bluff, the trail runs close to the water, and the whole valley goes gold and pink. The current slides dark and slow past tangled green banks, herons work the shallows, and the air cools with the evening. This is the same river that gathered the Minnesota at Bdote long before the fort or the city, still quietly doing the oldest work there is. Thank you for riding the river bluffs with Fru World Explorer, from the sacred meeting of the waters at Bdote across into St. Paul and Egan. If this journey through the deep history of the Minnesota and Mississippi confluence moved you, subscribe and come along for the next ride. There is always more to discover, one trail at a time.